Got it.
Harry, you want to acknowledge the thing on the mouse?
Oh. Okay, we are live.
No, acknowledge the got it, yeah. There you go.
Good to go. We are live.
Okay, we're good to go there. Chair?
Hi, before we get started, maybe we can do a mic check and roll call for commissioners here. I have Josh Kaho'olawe, Chair. Who else do we have in this room?
Mike Nahopi, Executive Director. Can you guys hear us okay? Give us a thumbs up. Okay. Hey, Johnny.
Kelly Pang.
Suzanne Case.
Michaela, can you do a sound check?
Michaela Pescaia, eu.
Okay. Anela?
Anela Evans, eu.
Okay. And then Samalu?
Morning, Mike. Good morning, Chair. Same Commissioner.
And then I think we have Dan, right?
Yes, Dan Morris is here.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Before we call to order, I'm gonna see if Lanai Sai could lead us in Naumakua.
Sure. Na'omakua mai kalahiki a kalakau, mai kaho'oku'i a Kaho'olawe. Na'omakua ya kahina kua ya kahina alo, ya ka'akau I kalani, o kiha I kalani, o wei kalani, nunulu I kalani, kaholo I kalani. Ia ka pulapula a oko, o kukulu ke ea a kanaloa, e malama oko ya mako, e ului kalani, e ului ka honua, e ului ka pae aina o Hawaii, e ho mai ka ike, e ho mai ka ikaika, e ho mai ke akamai, e ho mai ka maopopo pono, e ho mai ka ike pāpālua, e ho mai ka mana.
Thank you. Aloha, everybody. This is our first mixed meeting, Zoom and in person here in our boardroom. This is for July 1st KIRC Commission meeting. We're going to call to order. And we're going to go to our approval of we last met in February 24th. And I'm going to ask the commissioners if they have any comments or questions to the minutes.
Chair, motion to approve the February 24th minutes.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Pang. Can we get a second?
Second, Pescaia.
Thank you.
I think I wasn't. February 24th. No, you were there. I was.
We vote to approve, or just?
Yeah, you can vote to approve. Vote. Call for the question.
Okay. We're going to approve by roll call.
You just talk, it'll catch you. Oh, okay. Okay, Vice Chair Lucy is excused. Commissioner Case? All right. Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Pang?
Aye.
Commissioner Pescaia?
Aye.
Commissioner Mata'afa?
Aye.
And Chair Kaho'olawe.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. I wanted to make a comment on agenda item 3, community and public comments. I want to welcome Aloha Keone. Thanks for joining us. And if folks have, and those on YouTube or other spaces, you can, your comments don't have to be limited to this part of the agenda. If as we go through, if there are comments or feedback from the public, then if you're online, you notify us maybe through the chat?
Yep, tell them to comment through the live chat on the YouTube. I'm monitoring it right here, and I'll be sharing that with the group.
Thank you. Are there any public comments at this time? Not, we're gonna move to agenda item 4A, action item to approve the KIRC budget for fiscal year 2023.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to remind everyone that, we are recording this and it is streaming live on YouTube Live, so just for your information. I am going to attempt to share a screen. Let me see what we got here. Okay, thank you, everyone. So this is our FY '23 proposed budget. Just for your information, House Bill 1600, which is the state budget appropriation bill, has not been signed and is on the governor's line item veto list. So this is our best guess of what we'll be getting in general funds for this next year. But basically, our budget request is to accept a general fund budget of $1.5 million, well, $1,528,123, approve a trust fund expenditure of $695,734 for a total operating budget of $2,223,857. And let me just break down a little bit of the sources of the funding for this budget. In general funds, we have about a little bit over $1.4 million we'll be getting this year. That's a change from last year, increase of $444,000. In House Bill 116, we were given, well, I'll talk about with the general funds. We do have a carryover of $42,000, which is about an increase of $19,000 from last year. Our reimbursable trust funds is $521,000, increase of $165,000, which is mostly all the grant funding. And the biggest change for us is a reduction in non-reimbursable trust funds of $174,000, which is a change of $231,000. Overall, our budget has increased by $397,000, and you can see in the chart below how they have increased in general funds, carryover, reimbursable trust funds, and a significant decrease in non-reimbursable trust funds. And I'll go through each item and what their sources are and how much we're getting. So compared to, as we have distributed by programs, you can see the budget distribution. We're kind of a third split in operations and admin, and then all the field programs. Admin is a third just because most of the personnel costs are in admin. And funding source, we're about 2/3 general funded, about a little bit under a third reimbursable, and maybe about 10% between the carryover and non-reimbursable trust funds. What is also significant this year is that we have funding for cultural resources, and I'll talk about that when we get to that program. Looking at the general fund allotment, our estimate for FY '23 is about a little bit over $900,000, and that's for personnel, payroll. In the House Bill 1600, we will be getting an additional $72,000, which is 6 months funding for 2 new positions, and I'll talk about them in the programs that we'll put them in. So a total of $930,000 for payroll. In other operating expense, which is basically, all our cost expenses, we're receiving $213,000 in other operating expenses. House Bill 1600 increased it to $400,000. We are estimating a restriction about 5%. I mean, that's just a number we're looking at. Last year it was 7%. We're hoping with the better economic climate, the restriction will be reduced, but we don't know until the actual budget is actually released. So we're estimating about $582,000 for our other operating expenses. Our general fund carryover, we have funds already allotted for the first quarter of our office lease. We already have set aside money for our office AC repair and our landscaping, which is at the boathouse, which is basically grass cutting and tree trimming at the boathouse. We have funds set aside. Our reimbursable trust funds are, we're going to use the trust funds to start a project and then we get paid back for them. So this is, with regards to our trust fund, this is like, it's net zero, neutral funding. We're going to use our trust funds and we're going to get reimbursed for all this, plus we'll get other additional funding. But these are different sources. IMLS 4, which is the Institute for Museum and Library Sciences. Number 4 was a communication outreach project. We have $35,000 allocated for this year. We just got announced that we won IMLS 5, which is expansion of the communication and for a complete redo of our office computer system. So we'll be getting about $90,000. We'll be spending $90,000 this year and get reimbursed to replace all our office computers, our servers, our internet connection, a bunch of different things in our office. HTA, Hawaii Tourism Authority, we still have $40,000 for boat and base camp operations in our current grant. Department of Health 4, which is a planting project up on the slopes of above Kaho'olawe. We have about $92,000 that we'll be spending this year to continue the planting up there. NIFWIF, which is National Fish and Wildlife Fund, marine debris cleanup, which we'll be completing this year, so we'll be spending about $73,000 in reimbursable funds. We are starting the bulk of this Coastal Wetland Conservation CWC grant. It will be paying for salaries for a temporary Ocean Resource Specialist 2, project materials, supplies material. It'll reimburse boat operations, base camp funding, and communications contract funds. DOH 5, which is the ending of this, well, I think 4 and 5 are the same, huh? Yeah, so 4 and 5 are the same. We have some salary, about 3 months left of the Kaho'olawe Island Reserve Specialist 2 position. And then NAWCA is the North American Wetland Conservation Authorization Act. It's going to be down in Kaupapa area. We have about $61,000 in wetland restoration. Total $521,000 for this upcoming year. Non-reimbursable trust funds, our goal was to get as much as possible reimbursed, but we were left, after with all the new funding, these are what we were left with. $65,000 in office AC repairs, but we've been working through fiscal. We've currently got that number reduced down to, let's go ahead, new number. We got it reduced down to $49,000, so we'll make that update we'll have to do a budget amendment later this year because we have a couple more grants that are going to be coming online, so we'll add them in once we get official notice. But we've already reduced that to $49,000, so another about $16,000 $16,000 we were able to get off that number from leftover funding. Base camp operations, $64,000 that we could not apply to general funds or get grants to pay for it. $32,000 the communications, and then we will be covering the KIRC 2 specialist salary for 3 months until our 6 months hiring delay kicks in, and then we'll be able to transfer this person to general funds. And I'll talk about that when we get to restoration program or operation program. So overall impact to the trust fund.
Mike, came back to that,
Yeah.
the total, there's an error in the total in that table.
Which one?
17,644.
Oh, yeah.
So what should it be?
Yeah, this number is incorrect. I think there's another.
Doubles at least in 6 or 4.
Oh, yeah, there's a 4 missing in that number, so it's 174. Oh, no, 174,664. Yeah, 0.4. So, okay. I think it's correct in the motion. The motion's correct, yeah. Yeah, that comma should move over one place.
Comma's in the wrong spot.
Yeah, the comma's in the wrong place. Impact to the trust fund, we're estimating to end the year about a little bit under $1.2 million in the trust. At this is, ending this year, starting next year. We're expecting grant revenue is about $530, trust fund interest, about $9,000. Income, which is, access fees, money that is not reimbursed. So we do have funding that is going to be paying for direct expenses, so about $65,000, and then $25,000 in just charitable contributions from fundraising and different activities of fundraising. We expect to have trust fund expenditures little under $700,000. Our net income is slightly above $66,000, which is significantly reduced from last year. Our projected end-of-year balance at the end of FY23 is about $1.1 million, 28. So reduction of $66,000. Our goal for next year is to try to get back up into net income, either zero or plus. We were there for a few years, and then lost a lot of funding during the pandemic, and slowly we're climbing back out of the hole again. A couple things, it's not in this slide, but I just want to talk about it. It's in your packet, what the funding, how we break it down into the programs and what's happening. So in the commission budget, we'll be funding for the commission coordinators, general funds for the commission coordinator. We're expecting about 4 hybrid commission meetings for FY23 from general funds. Hybrid meetings will consist of in-person and remote attendance. Most of the meetings will be located here at DLNR due to the availability of the audio-visual equipment to host the hybrid meeting. And this budget assumes that the Honolulu-based commissioners will be attending in person if they desire, and all off-island commissioners will attend remotely. We'll see if we can do one on Maui. We just have to find a spot where we can do a hybrid location that we could tap into their network system and have Wi-Fi and then have a computer system available.
Something in the university, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. And then also has to be ADA accessible. I mean, we can't do it at our office because we don't have ADA accessibility to our office. The administration budget includes general funds for the executive director, the admin officer, the admin specialist 3, public information specialist, and the GIS land specialist. It includes office expenses, which are office lease, storage space, computer equipment, support and travel, outreach material for newsletters and annual report, purchase of new computer equipment and servers per IMLS 5 grant, and then the repair of the AC system. Right now, we have been running for how many, anybody know how many months?
Too many.
Like
8 months.
8 months? Almost, yeah.
No AC?
6,
None.
since the beginning of the year of no air conditioning. It wasn't bad during the wintertime, but now in the summer it's kind of unbearable, yeah. So, we have, the contract is in place. It's been awarded, it's been encumbered. Now we're trying to get on their scheduling, because right now it's summer and this is the most busiest month for air conditioning installations. But we hopefully as things get going this month, we'll get everything installed and replaced. Reserve operation budget includes general funds for vessel operator, logistics specialist, and a volunteer coordinator, and a new general fund allotment for a new operation manager position, and I'll talk about that in my ED report. 6 months hiring delay. Reimbursable trust funds for Maui vehicles and Kihei boat operations, which includes funding for vessel maintenance operations, repairs, and all the work we do at the boathouse, like the landscaping, water, electricity, internet, all those connections there. Reimbursable trust funds for base camp operation material supplies and on-island vehicles, heavy equipment repairs, field, backup electrical systems, and trucks, and a mixture of non-reimbursable and reimbursable trust funds for the base camp management contract, supplemental base camp operations, and communication contract. The restoration program budget includes general funds for natural resource specialist 4 and 2 natural resource specialist 3, 6 months of trust funds for the Kaho'olawe Island Reserve Specialist 2 position. 3 of those months are reimbursable from DOH 5, and the 3 months are going to be non-reimbursable, so we can carry that person on until the 6-month hiring delay for our funding kicks in, and then we can hire that person under the new general funds. And then grant funding for native plants to implement the Nakwa grant project. Ocean program includes general funds for an Ocean Specialist 3 and Ocean Specialist 2, reimbursable trust funds for a temporary Ocean Specialist 2 position funded by the CWC grant for 2 years. So we'll be able to get a third person in the Ocean program for 2 years under grant funding. Reimbursable grant trust funds to complete the marine debris program in Kanapo, and the reimbursable trust funds for our first year in the coastal wetland conservation. And in the culture program, we have new general fund allotment for a permanent cultural resource specialist 3 position with a 6-month hiring delay. So we hope to start recruiting in the fall and be able to start January 1. Once we get a new person in place, we'll see what they need for their program, and then we'll readjust the culture program to include funding for their operation and the things they want to do. But we want to wait until we get a new person in place and they can develop their program. So right now, the culture program only has funding for the person, and then we'll do a budget adjustment later this year once somebody's in place to help design what they want to work on this year. That's it. And then on your screen, you can see the motion.
Open up to questions and comments.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chair.
Just, I think the budget instructions are for Q1, first quarter, to operate off of last year's budget because of this time delay in getting HB 1600 finalized.
What was that again? To operate?
For operating for the state funds.
Yeah.
For the first quarter to operate off of last year's budget until HB 1600 is in place. I think we're supposed to go first quarter is.
Oh, yeah.
Not jumping into the new budget.
Yeah, so the only thing that we actually have in the time phase portion of our budget, right now, the new general funds won't really kick in until after first quarter because it's we won't be the big parts of it. We already have the office lease already pre-encumbered for the first quarter, and we won't be encumbering any new money. And personnel changes aren't really happening until the 6-month delay. So
Right.
I think we're up, and most of the other grant programs are all trust funds, so they won't impact the actual general fund budget. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The only we're pretty much going to be working with trust funds and then reimbursing trust funds, and then whenever G funds are available, then we'll encumber our major contracts.
Yeah.
But we have enough to get through the first quarter of the contracts.
I had a question about the hiring. Is all your hiring through the state? Are these civil service positions?
No, we're non-civil service.
Non-civil service?
All our positions are exempt.
Exempt.
Yeah.
But it's through you're using the state process to hire?
Because they're exempt, we have to get authorization for hiring. Personnel allows us to do the recruitment and hiring internally. Yeah. I mean, instead of having to go to like DHERD for a master list, we do our own.
What's the cause for the delays? That's what I guess that's what I'm trying
Oh,
to get.
it's in, why the 6-month delay? It's in the budget.
Oh, okay.
So normally when they create a new position within the general fund budget, they give you funding for only 6 months because they figure from day one, it'll take you you have to create the position. By the time you create the position and get the funding in place and hire and recruit, it's 6 months. But it might take us 6 months for some of the new positions because in the budget they use language from a different request we had. So the name of the position and the job number doesn't match, but I talked to fiscal and personnel. We can fix all that. So we have to do some personnel paperwork to fix all that kind of stuff to get that going. And then we have to write a new job description, and then we'll go out and recruit, stuff like that. Yep. Any other questions? Anything else? Anybody on Zoom line? Oh, there's a question.
No, this is just more of a comment. Sorry, Chair. This is Salmalu. I just want to say I'm happy to see the reduction in the non-reimbursable trust funds, and I think that's a testament to you and the staff working the legislature and the grant. So I'm happy with that. And reduction of non-reimbursable trust funds.
Our goal for this, upcoming, legislative session is what they gave us is non-reoccurring. So our goal is to try to get it reoccurring, which means it becomes part of the permanent budget.
Mike, so the position that was the cultural specialist previously, that was cultural specialist 2 position?
It was a cultural resource project coordinator, which was the cultural 2 position redescribed into that. They gave us a cultural 3 position. So it's sort of, it's a little higher than the project coordinator position. We still have to redescribe it because, I don't think we've had one for a while. So we have to take what we have and then redescribe it to fit into the culture 3 position.
Okay, so that's why you're describing it as a new position instead of a renewed position, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, because I think they made us, I think at one time we took either the 3 or 2 position and we had to change it to Cultural Resource Project Coordinator, and then because it was vacant during the pandemic, they eliminated all vacant positions, and not just, well, first they defunded it, and then they eliminated it, so we don't even have that position available anymore. So that's why we have to create a new one, and they gave us this Culture 3 position.
Mahalo.
Kiala has in the chat, do we need to propose/approve to expend the FY22 approved funds into the first quarter of FY23 to cover the mentioned costs?
Let me see. No, because we already have carryover. The carryover is built into the budget, so that actually this slide says actually should be a budget request for FY23. That's a mistake on the slide, but and I can get out of the slides. Yeah. Let me how do I get back to this thing?
You go down.
Oh, here, stop share.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so built into the budget is the carryover, and the carryover is the funding for, that goes from 22 into 23, so it's already built in.
Okay, I'll make the motion, accept the $1,528,123 general appropriation budget detailed by the executive director to fund KIRC staff positions and program expenses as approved in the state administration's budget.
Thank you. Can we get a second?
Second.
Thank
I
you.
second the
Commissioner
motion.
Evans. We'll vote by roll call.
Commissioner Case? Aye. Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Mataafa?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Commissioner Piscaya?
Aye.
And Chair Kaho'olawe?
Aye. Motion carries. We have a recommended motion, Part B.
Okay, the next motion is, the recommended motion is authorize the KIRC executive director to continue discussions with
Let's stay on,
I can make that for B, so.
Oh, the B, okay, yeah.
We'll approve the expenditure of approximately $695,734 from the Kaho'olawe Rehabilitation Trust Fund to fund reimbursable grants, projects, and non-reimbursable operations.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, can we vote via roll call?
Commissioner Case? Aye. Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Mataafa?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Commissioner Piscaya?
Aye.
Chair Kaho'olawe?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Turn it back to EP.
Okay, thank you. The next agenda item is possible NOAA partnership with, in building the Kihei Operation Education Center. The recommended motion is authorize the KIRC ED to continue discussions with NOAA for a possible partnership in the building of the Kihei Operation and Education Center. Earlier this year in March, I got contacted by the NOAA interim superintendent for the the humpback whale sanctuary. Their facility is located north of us, up in Kihei, towards, I think it's Maui-Lani. I think they're right across the street from Maui-Lani area. But anyway, so they have a part. The sanctuary is co-managed by NOAA and DLNR, and we have worked with that group for a very long time. NOAA actually houses their vessel on our property, and when Ohua was down for engine repairs, the sanctuary group has taken our volunteers and people out to the island. So we work closely together for quite a few years. But I got a call from them because at their property, they're getting inundated by sea level rise and flooding. They are at the fish pond, and when there's high tide and rain, there's a stream nearby that actually floods their parking lot, and they have flood doors built into their buildings. And then the sand around their building is inundating their offices, and they have a old wooden structure on the ocean front that is in danger of getting damaged. So they want to move out of their current site, and they were looking for any government properties on Kihei, the South Kihei coast. And so they gave us a call, and about probably, if they could co-locate on our property. And I first thought that our land is going to be too low too. But they said, according to the tide maps, according to their projections for sea level rise, we are beyond the 50-year levels. So our property is actually pretty safe for being so close to the ocean for any sea level rise in that area. So we met together. I met with their interim superintendent, Kate Thompson. The previous superintendent had retired. Kate is actually the head of all sanctuaries, so she's closer to the DC level. We took a tour of the property. They like what they saw out there, the options, and we would like to continue the discussions with them about possibly rebuilding or integrating them into our operation. A couple of the positives on this is that because we'll be using, NOAA will be fronting money to us. One of the options that they talked about is they would like to sell their property, and then whatever funds they get from the sale, roll it into the KIRC building, and then also being able to get direct appropriation money from NOAA in their budget, and we could do a direct earmarks through congressional funding through NOAA directly to us. So it kind of gives us now another revenue source to help then take this whole package to the state legislature and say, hey, we got partners that are willing to help pay for this thing. Would the state be able to kick in CIP money to build this? One of the interesting things about this partnership is that because it's a federal funding, it would generate a new NEPA or environmental assessment. And with a new environmental assessment, it gives us the opportunity to redesign the building and expand beyond the 10,000 square foot footprint that we were restricted because we were using our old environmental assessment. We were using the previously developed environmental assessment and trying to stay within the original footprint. So it actually starts us all over again with NOAA footing the bill for a new EA and doing a new redesign to expand the size of the building and add in some other things that we weren't originally thinking because we were trying to stay within the previous footprint. Some of the things NOAA would like is they want space for 20 staff with 5 offices, and I think we can add that to a new, larger building. They would like to be able to house their boat permanently, which they pretty much do right now. We're looking at our boathouse. We have the hakilo stored on one side of the boathouse. Eventually, the hakilo will get disposed of either by sale or either disposal, and then we'll make that side available for their vessel, the Kaho'olawe, and then they also would like to put in some wet labs, which we can look at portable buildings, in the nursery area that could serve as wet lab area. They wanted, housing for visiting scientists, but, one of the things we talked about was, I already spoke to the condo, managers next door, and they were originally, they were excited about the idea of conferences being held at the Kihei property in our new building, and they are open to being conference hotels, availability. So, NOAA is actually gonna start talking to them about maybe, having a permanent, space over at one of those condos that's about 100 yards away from us. And it will be a lot more comfortable location than having a bunkhouse built on the property. So right now, what we've done is we've contacted our architect firm that did the current designs. They had put together a proposal for NOAA of the cost to redesign the current building for conceptual process so that they can enter into a new permitting process. And also, they gave a proposal to NOAA on how much a new EA would cost. And we've sent that to NOAA, and we're leaving it with NOAA right now, and that's where we're at. The goal of this whole thing is that we continue discussions with the caveat that no agreement is going to be made until we can get a plan together and then present it back to the commission for commission approval before we move forward with any permanent plan. And I think that's pretty much...
Someone's raising his hand.
Yeah.
So is this, I know this is under action items, do we need a motion for this? It sounds like it's a little premature, and I think we need like a more concrete proposal before we take action or a position as a commission.
I just wanted to brief the commission and then get at least the nod, yes or no, like continue on or stop. So, I mean, I just want to make sure that I got the commission's approval to keep talking to them as a way of saying that, hey, and this is something I can report back to NOAA that, hey, at least it's a positive continue on, because they needed something to take back to their boss and say that it's a possibility or it's an all stop. So I think the motion would help. Yeah.
Chair, no, I'll just say, it's hard, I don't disagree that we shouldn't continue discussion. It's just hard to, because you threw a lot of information at us all at once, and if you had something more concrete that we could look at to kind of digest a little bit more, like I have no problem with you continuing discussions with NOAA. Just it would make more sense, because I mean, if there's something we could look at, like some kind of proposal on paper, would help, I think, to make a decision. And I don't necessarily think we need a motion. I think it's okay to continue discussion, at least from my perspective, with NOAA at this point. I'll leave it up to the rest of the commissioners.
Other questions?
One idea is to, I think we're in agreement that you can continue discussions, and maybe at the next meeting, you might have something a little more concrete that you can present.
Yeah, I can't, I think what they're doing now is they're trying to hire a new superintendent. So I think that's why we don't have anything. It's more of we're interested right now. NOAA's interested, and they said they got to move. So that's the only place that they will commit to right now until they get a new guy in place that's going to take over. And then, well, I talked to Dan already that we'll have to start discussing, what are we going to, what are they going to give us, what they want, all kinds of things. So far right now is we gave them the proposal from RIM Architects to do a new EA and to do a redesign. So if they do a new redesign, we'll be part of this conceptual new redesign of the building.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you can share with us is when they do that, but that might be a while down the road.
Yeah, we'll have to wait till, actually they say that they want to do something, and then I can bring that back. Yeah.
But, I think, I kind of agree. I don't think you need a motion for you to continue those discussions. And plus, if there's changes going on at NOAA, who knows what they're going to be doing in the next 6 months. So, just keep abreast on the next, and maybe we can have it as an agenda item, at the next meeting, just status on.
Yeah, if it's just an update, I'll add it to my ED section, and then if there's actually we have something on paper, like a proposed agreement, or at least highlights of the agreement, I can bring that to the commission.
Right.
Yeah. A piggyback on this one, which it just happened after we put this whole packet together, is, we got approached by the Broadband Initiative. It's the undersea broadband cable that's gonna be going to all the different islands. They're looking for a ocean connection in the South Maui area, and, I talked to Bert Lum, who's the state broadband guy, who's an old TKO member. Our property is actually one of those ideal locations for it too. So I actually had the contractor and, UH, who is leading the broadband initiative. They came up to the property last week, Friday, to kind of take a look at an area. And, what they are looking for is a manhole on the property that they could do a underground tunnel. It'll be a microbore, horizontal tunneling, 500 meters out to sea, and they need a land terminal connection, on the property. But I told Bert when we first started this discussion is that, our property could be looked at with the caveat that, we're looking for compensation, either a long-term rental lease agreement for the use of the property and, a direct access to the broadband, network. And they said it's possible that they would run it up to the high-tech center and run a line back to us with free broadband connectivity, internet connections for the duration of the cable. So that's kind of things we've thrown out. They actually, when they came to look at the property, they asked about the possibility of putting a 1,000 square foot building on the property, which would be somewhere, it's about the size of 2 Connex boxes in the nursery area. That would be a monitoring station. And I said, we could talk about it, once, they get there. It looks more realistic because they're surveying different properties right now. And with the agreement that, there'll be a long-term lease agreement for rental for that piece of land on our property. The goal is try to see how much revenue generation we can get from Kihei to help offset the long-term management and building of the Kihei Center. So
I want to stay on this. So,
okay.
So the feedback here is that we believe the executive director is already empowered to have discussions with our community partners, federal, state, local, or otherwise, with the interest of the Kihei Boat Operations and Education Center in mind. Did you want action from the commission that would help signal something on this particularly?
No, I mean, I don't really need it. I just put it in here as an opportunity for you guys.
More of an opportunity if we have concerns from any of the committee members, which I appreciate, more of like on the, no, that might not be, and we don't want to explore further. Yeah.
Right? If nobody has a negative against, I was mostly asking if anyone had a negative opposition to approaching NOAA about this.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give my commissioners an opportunity, right? I guess we're assuming that, right? We're okay with Mike discussing, and exploring what we can do together.
Yeah. Unless commissioners have some type of feelings, not supporting, what are those, and they could bring them up now.
Hearing none.
We have to do it. We just move on then.
No action.
One thing I'll do for our next meeting is I'll probably ask to create when we do get closer to making some kind of a plan. I'll ask for a commissioner to be assigned as a task force?
Yeah, I like
working group.
How we did
working
that
group.
With,
as a working group.
Chang,
yeah.
Right, in the past, just sat on.
Yeah. So I'll ask for a commissioner to be assigned as a part of a working group and be part of the discussions with NOAA so that we can bring it back to the commission. Because I definitely would need a commission support for that. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Chair, one thing to think about though is maybe you explained some values you have when you talk to these partners who come on property want to do something on the property, and that is, revenue generating is definitely one of them. Access for our staff, to the building. We want to make sure that we have enough space to do what we want. Maybe that's something that you might want to think about is, developing some type of decision matrix of what you go through when people approach you for use of the Kihei boathouse. Whether it be a telecommunications or whether it be, a condo association or NOAA, what are some of those things that go through your mind when you make those decisions? Before you bring it up, maybe before you bring it to the commission.
Okay, no other comments. We're going to move on to administrative business, legislative update.
Okay. Let's see, legislative update. I have the summary of the bills. First, the bills that were written directly for us: House Bill 1577 and Senate Bill 3013. 1577 was written and introduced by Rep. Yamane, and also it appropriates funds for KIRC and for 2 full-time equivalent permanent positions for the Reserve Commission. It passed all the way through the House side, transferred over to Water Land, made it past the Water Land hearings, and interesting that it made it to the Senate hearings, and the Senate hearings were when they opened the legislature up. And when we were able to testify, we had a lot of good comments from every senator at the Waterland hearing for the Senate had a positive comment, and they actually put it on record, which is, you rarely hear any other member of the committee provide testimony in support. So it was very good. The Senate version, it got past the Senate Waterland Committee, and it stalled up in WHAM. So these bills, basically, one crossed over, got up to the Money Committee in the Senate side. The other one didn't make it up to WHAM. But a lot of the things that were in those bills got absorbed into House Bill 1600. House Bill 1600, our original ask was to restore the $100,000 funding that they gave us the previous years, pre-pandemic, and then to add a cultural specialist 2 position. In their first amendment, they increased the request from 100 to 500. They increased the KIRC request from 1 full-time to 2 full-time positions. In the Senate hearing, SD1, they decreased it back to 100,000. They gave us full-time funding for 2 positions, and then they added 500,000 in CIP money. In the SD2 version, there was no changes that affected us. And finally, when the bill went to conference committee, the actual final end of the bill was they gave us a non-reoccurring increase in general funds for FY23 of $400,000. They gave us 2 permanent positions with 6 months funding delay for next year, and then they added $500,000 in CIP funding for base camp improvements. Right now, the bill, actually, I should have put down here, it's pending governor's signature. So, but we just heard that it's on the veto line item veto list. So we'll see where it goes after that. And once it's signed, then we'll see what survived out of that bill. There was one other bill, Senate Bill 2176. It was to restore KIRC funding. It was another one of those. That just got introduced and was referred to WHAM. Didn't get too far past that. There was one other thing that we were tracking, just because it kind of had a tangential involvement. It was Senate Bill 2067 relating to burial sites. It establishes an inter-division program between Historic Preservation Division, the County Burial Council's Office, OCCL, and Office of Hawaiian Affairs that addresses the location, movement, and restoration of Hawaiian burials, or EV, exposed or likely to be exposed to coastal erosion. It did get a hearing, but it never got passed WHAM in the Senate. We're involved because KIRC acts as the burial council for Kaho'olawe. And actually for EV exposed or coastal exposed EV, we actually have a process in place that we deal with exposed EV on the island. And we've dealt with a couple of the near Coast EV that, are in sand dunes towards the west side of the island, and that we've done reinterments and, building up structures in that area to help protect it. So hopefully with a new culture person, we'll go back to, be able to keep monitoring and keep, maintaining what we've done already. So we're sort of ahead of the game in with what this bill is trying to do. That's it for the legislative. Any questions?
Comments or what did the department do?
I mean, you know, there was a lot of good funding for all departments because it's you know, there was just a big budget recovery this year. It's not expected to continue. It might continue next year, and then the revenues are expected to sort of table out and then drop the following year. So it's something where you want to be careful about long-term commitments, i.e. staff. Short-term commitments, like through contracts, are much more flexible. And then, you know, a lot of different stuff on bills.
Hearing no other comments, let's keep moving. ED's report.
Okay, Executive Director's report, budget, finance, and funding. Attached, you should see an expenditure report. Right now, we're about, this is as of end of May. Total, we're about 87% spent on our budget. Our projection is not to overspend the budget. We're very close to being probably 8% under budget at the end of the year is our projection, because that's where we got our carryovers. We estimated about that, so we can carry that much over for the next year. We're doing fine with our budget. Long-range schedule is also attached. A couple of notes. Well, I'll talk about it when we get to CIP stuff. Administration, staffing, and personnel. Commission status update. No real changes for this coming year, but I think our chair's term expires at the end of this legislative year. So I've already given an informal update to PKL for nomination. They need to start a nomination process to replace Commissioner Kakua's position on the board.
I'm free. I'm free.
In theory.
In theory. And but in KIRC staff, in the ocean program, we are currently interviewing to fill 2 of the ocean resource positions. One is a permanent one that is due to the departure of Courtney Kerr, who was our Ocean Resource Specialist 2. She moved to Hawaii Island, so that is a vacant permanent position or full-time position. And then we also have a temporary 2-year position that's going to be funded with Fish and Wildlife funding. So we're in the process of filling those. New staff positions, the new general fund funded permanent positions are authorized in the new budget. We asked for 1 Cultural Resource Specialist 2. The House Finance Committee expanded to 2 new positions. One is a Cultural Resource Specialist 3 position to replace the Cultural Resource Project Specialist that was eliminated last year. The second position, we're planning to redescribe it as an operations manager, because right now the Reserve Ops program has nobody overseeing it. I pretty much kind of run that whole thing myself. But our intention is to, we have a position before of operation manager, to bring that back, redescribe it, to be in charge of the operations program, which includes not only the boat operations, all our vehicles and equipment at Kihei, but also to be overseeing the base camp management and on-island, work with the base camp contractors to manage the on-island, the transitions, all our purchasing supplies that we need on island, and the transportation and all those efforts, which right now is kind of distributed by many people. And then our longer-term goal is to create, two separate, boat captain crews. So right now we have 3 people with captain licenses that can man our boat. We're gonna be eventually looking for a 4th person so that we can have 2 people on each, we have 2, like crew A, crew B, that has 2 captains, full qualified, Coast Guard captains on board the boat. Our goal is hopefully to promote within, because of the uniqueness of the new job description and being able to move everyone up within the operations program to backfill the positions that we'll be vacating, to fill the operations manager. That's our goal. Capital improvements, reserve operational logistics, base camp CIP. The new budget also authorized $500,000 CIP funding. So probably the next commission meeting, I will also be asking for a working group, a commissioner to participate in a working group to help develop the CIP requests for proposal bid project. We have a list of projects that we would like to do in the base camp, and I think Commissioner Kaho'olawe was involved in our last CIP project where you were in the solar one, right? Yeah. So what we did was we had a punch list of things that we wanted to get built, and we put it out for bid, and the one who did the most of that list was the ones who did the project. So right now, our current list includes new roofing on all the base camp buildings, except for Hut 10 and the dining hall and the galley, because those have all been recently replaced. But if you look at an aerial view of the camp, you can see how badly rusted all the roofs are. And with the new roofs, it allows us to also do better rainwater collection on all the buildings in camp. Right now, we're collecting rain off of just the shop buildings. Even with the shop buildings, we have enough water to be able to fill up containers and take it down to our new coastal planting areas. So with all the buildings roofed and collected with rainwater collection, we'll be able to do a lot more planting in the coastal areas around camp and also plantings within camp. Second one on our punch list is replace the current freshwater distribution piping camp. Right now, the water system in camp has been evolving since 1980. We have everything from 2-inch to 1-inch to half-inch, back up to 2-inch to PVC combined with flex hose or something. I mean, it's been jury-rigged and built upon for years. And we had a couple of leaks last time I was out there, and we were just trying to find the shutoff valve. It's not in the normal location we have the shutoff valve. So our idea is we take everything from the tank to all the buildings, strip all that out, replace it with standard plumbing construction methods, pipe locations, valve locations in your standard location, standard isolation locations. So, and then we'll be able to have a plumbing drawing and then, indicate where isolation valves are off instead of having strange underground pipes. Last time I was out there, I heard this rumbling and I went digging around and I found the pipe underground broken that was coming off the hot water heater that we didn't even know we had an underground pipe in that area. So that's number 2. Number 3, replace the boardwalk in camp. Right now it's built out of like 2x6s from years of whatever left off wood we had. So replace it with some kind of composite material, relay the whole structure underneath it, place it the boardwalk so that it's a lot safer, and it helps us in the rainy season because the camp turns into a big mud puddle with all the dirt and everything around the area. Replace the current window-mounted air conditioners that we have in some of the buildings, which is mostly the offices and the staff huts, with heat pumps, high-efficiency split-air heat pumps. I mean, I'm also going to try and look at geothermal. Well, they have this geothermal heat pumps, which basically puts coils into the ground and then use the temperature difference of the ground. But we'll have to evaluate the unexploded ordnance. I'll work with the ordnance people about can we do drilling can we bury coils in the ground safely with explosive ordnance issues. But if not, then we'll use high-efficiency heat pumps, which would significantly reduce energy consumption in camp. And then replace the LZ1 shelter that's up at the landing zone. It's used by both the PKO and the KIRC for during the hikes up to Mo'ula. We're evaluating either tearing down the old one or building something new nearby that would be better shelter, better design, and be able to store, the water that we leave up there for the hikes in a cleaner environment. Also, have more information material up there for educational purposes for people when they come up on the hikes. And for KIRC purposes, we spend a lot of our breaks up in that area, lunch breaks up there. Also, we can store some emergency equipment in a very safe location up there at LZ1. A couple of things I want to add in. I talked about the ocean cable landing. That's part of this infrastructure. And right now, we're having serious problems with our RO, our reverse osmosis unit. The RO pump is not able to make pressure, and we've had the base camp guys tear it apart. They found one of the valves is missing a plastic cap, so the cap is on the high pressure pump side. It's probably in our leach field somewhere. So we've been working with the vendor to get a replacement piece. We finally got approval yesterday because it's a proprietary pump. The company is going to send us a whole brand new pump. We're working with them to get the procurement system purchased, and we're going to buy it on trust funds, and we can get reimbursed through some of our grants for the piece. Because of that, in June, we had to cancel all volunteers. We had the camp open for only staff to do the work projects. Good thing it's summertime. We don't have that much planting in the summertime. But for July, we are canceling the entire access. Last month, while we were out there with just staff, we burned through about 1,800 gallons of water. We were under 4,000 when we started the camp out in June. Right now, we're probably closer to 3,000 gallons, maybe even less. I think we're under 3,000 right now, so we may be closer to 2,000, which is kind of very low on the tank. So our goal is get the pump in. We will probably send the base camp, one or two base camp guys out there, reinstall the pump, get it tested, and then if we know it can hold pressure, August access will go back on schedule. Yeah. But right now, we've canceled July. And July is happening next week, right? So there's no way we can get the pump installed and get July back on schedule. Government relations, House Finance. We did have a request from House Finance earlier, right after session. We had about 5 members that were planning to go. We ended up with 1, Rep. Pruso. I think 4 others dropped out at the last minute. Part of it because the numbers were increasing on COVID, but also because it was close to, I think they started campaigning. And but their staff came, and the feedback I've been getting is they're all psyched to go already. So we already booked them in for next May, right after session, and to get about at least 5 or 6 House Finance members. We're actually got contacted by Senate WAM committee, and they're actually wanted to do an overnight trip. So we're planning something in August timeframe, if it all works out, to have an overnight WAM committee trip out to Kaho'olawe. I think that's all I have in my ED report.
Questions or comments? Okay, thanks, Mike. I'm going to suggest we take just a few minutes, maybe 5-minute bathroom break. I know this might be a good time. I know Commissioner Piscaya that she has to step out, catch a plane. Is that how do we do this? I just want to take a 5-minute break.
You just call for recess.
Yeah. Call for recess. We'll see you back here at 11:19 with project status updates.
Yeah. You just pause.
Aloha, everyone. Let's reconvene our meeting here. We're going to move to, our project status updates.
Okay, the first project update is our KIRC Virtual Museum, Stage 3, IMLS 3. Terry?
Aloha Commissioners, we are in the last month of our IMLS 3 grant project. I did send out, the link to the newest, version of our living library, sent it out to the Commission as well as to the public. We pretty much have, finished every deliverable except for the outreach items. We'll be finishing that up this month. And the grant will end at the end of July. Are there any questions? No.
Okay, next one is provide community access to Kaho'olawe through virtual resources. That's IMLS 4. Okay.
So we were able to just finish doing some of our billing for FY22. So this project actually is developing a virtual huaka'i to expand public access through Google Earth. And so we currently have done all of our documentation and photo collection and are starting to do our audio recording collections with KIRC staff to just put the pieces all together. So we're hoping to have a full-on pilot ready to launch on our new website in August. Carmela and I are working on that on the back end, and we'll then be able to close out this project by the end of next year. We'll be sending not only the Commission but also our other stakeholders the preview before we launch it fully live to the public. And as we had mentioned earlier, the interesting thing about this project that through that work we were able to cover a lot of the comms contract for Island, just to be able to document and capture and have internet and Wi-Fi and all those kind of things on Island. And then also part of it is live streaming. So we've increased our live stream through our social media platforms through this project as well, and hope to continue that into the next one. So that's it for IMLS 4.
Commissioners, also, if you guys have any comments or if you want to send me notes about, we try to provide these one-page summary sheets in your packets. It includes background information for your edification, to give you some context of the different grants, the deliverables, how much the grant is for, who is funding, and then the bottom section of all these updates are the highlights, including a financial highlight status of like how much we have spent, how much we billed, how much we recovered. So hopefully those will help you guys, and it's a quick reference for you to have available for you at any time to go back and look at. And if you have any comments or things you'd like to see additional in these updates, we're still working through the template, and anything you could add would be very helpful. Next one is spreading aloha through community engagements, HTA.
Hakuawa operations.
Oh, yeah, you have a question?
Hakuawa operations, the next one?
Oh. Is mine listed differently?
DOH5.
No.
In the packet, DOH5 is the next one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what is it?
No, we got that.
But we'll follow the agenda, whatever's on the agenda.
Yeah, the agenda, spreading aloha,
Okay.
is the, HTA is the next one.
Just a follow-up. I love the one-pagers, the snapshots. The only field missing for me is project period, when it starts and ends.
That should be on there too, so.
It should be in here, yeah.
It got deleted in our last revision. It should actually be there on the top.
Yeah. Okay, we'll add that back in. We had that on the last meeting, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the HTA grant, this is a general operating restoration program grant. We originally asked for the max amount, which was, or close to it, which was about $80,000, and we were funded at half. And so upon awarding of that grant, we received our first payment of half of that, and then upon closing, we'll receive the second payment. But as Mike mentioned, we're using that primarily to help support float operations for all restoration activities on island, and we'll just be doing general reporting for that. The outcomes are we have money for plants, or activities for plants, put plants in the ground, and to bring out 200 volunteers over the course of the year. unfortunately, with some of our backups in scheduling due to our cancellations, we may need to just talk with HPA to make sure, for plus or minus a little bit. I don't think they'll be extending the award period. That'll be one thing I'll be checking on in the coming weeks to make sure we're meeting our requirements for the grant.
Okay, any questions? Next is status updates on current restoration projects. The first one on the agenda is Kaho'olawe Operation and Maintenance Plan 2020-21 DOH 5.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is an update of the 18-month operation and management plan for the Kaho'olawe area DOH 5. Our goal is to improve and maintain pre-existing irrigation and erosion control structures. That includes putting out wattos and check dams, planting 5,000 native plants, and the remeasure soil monitoring data previously collected in 2018 and 2019. This project is funded by the Department of Health, Clean Water Branch, and funding from the EPA. To date, we have put in deliverables 5,000 plants in this area. We've installed 20 check dams in the area, reread 8 erosion plot transects, and determined the reduction in the sediment load in the area, and taken 28 baseline photo points, 7 drone images for comparative data to 2019. The highlights again: 5,000 plants, 20 check dams. We have completed all of our goals to date. Well, completed all of our goals except the remonitoring of the baseline photos due to cancellation of trips and the scheduling. Our quarterly status update was submitted in in April of this year, and the results of the erosion control pins measured in April has shown a reduction in sediment load up to reducing the load up to 5% in the area. So far, we've spent spent $58,194.35 on this project. Any questions? Okay.
Oh, Paul, one thing can you add is, with the DOH 5, it is for the area above Kaho'olawe, the Wailuna hillside.
Yes.
We just got back comments from our work plan, our plan for a possible DOH 6, which is Cabo Hill, which is the other side of the hillside on the leeward side of the island. They gave us some minor technical and more editorial edits, but once the work plan is approved, the watershed plan is approved, it becomes a possible funding opportunity through DOH for that side. And that area is it's a mix of tier 2 cleared areas where we can dig, and also areas where we can't dig. And we have been doing a lot of work projects on our own, using rocks and plates and other things to grow things on the hard pan. It's more a desolate area, but we get that finalized, we'll be able to get more funding. And right now for Department of Health, they have a competitive grant process, but we've been working with them so long that what they do is they have their competitive grant process. They normally have leftover money, and they call us up and they say, hey, I got $200,000.
Wow.
Can you guys use it? And we go, yep, we'll take it. So we're trying to work through that combination of the competitive program and whatever leftover funding they have from EPA.
Mm.
Okay, next one on the restoration is the coastal upland restoration, which is actually a ocean program grant. So we'll have Dean talk about this one.
Oh, Matthew in the back.
Happy new fiscal year, Commissioners. Give you a brief update on our CWC wetland grant. To date, It's a grant that runs from January 1st of this year and will be ending in end of August 2024. It's for a total amount of $355,531. And obligations are to plant 20,000 plants, wildlife surveys, do a little bit of water routing on our road coming into base camp, and also monitoring correlation between the plantings on the beach and coral health in the water through surveys. To date, we've planted, or at the time of this update reporting period, we'd planted 2,500 natives on the coastline of Honokanaya. I'm sorry, and this grant takes place strictly in the Honokanaya wetland area. So to date, we've planted 2,500 plants. We actually have a group out there right now as we speak, planting plants for this grant obligation. And we've spent a little over $4,000, have not yet billed any, but working with Maggie and Matt in recouping that money shortly. Oh yeah, it's also, Mike had mentioned a little earlier, it's through this grant that second ocean program staff member will be hired for a 2-year period. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. If not, I think I'll hand it back to Paul.
Okay, Paul.
Okay, good morning. This is about the soil enrichment trials in degraded coastal and wetland areas on Kaho'olawe. This is funded through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Pacific Bird Habitat Joint Ventures. The purpose is to implement and use biochar in trying to enrich the soil in the degraded coastal and wetland areas on the island. To date, we have set up 9 experimental plots using biochar. Biochar is just burnt charcoal and added with other amendments and micronutrients. And we've taken a soil analysis before and after the trials have been done. This project was awarded $10,000, and again, from U.S. Fish and Wildlife and Ducks Unlimited. The highlights of it, again, the 9 plots. Plots in Keanakiki along the coast, the Kaho'olawe, the upper wetland, and in the CIP Kanapo Kamahio area at a higher elevation. So far, we have spent $7,959 and have billed $1,206 so far. The preliminary results of some of the soil analysis at this time, we think because of the low rainfall over the last 6 or 7 months, there's been very little significant improvement of soil nutrients in this area. We're hoping that there'll be better results as time goes along. Any questions?
Thanks, Paul.
Okay, the next one is the Kapalupalo Kanaloa Partnership Project. Purpose of this to implement the Kapalupalo Kanaloa Management Plan to a working group to restore Kanaloa Kaho'olawensis to the wild. This will result in the delisting of the species from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Endangered Species List. To date, we have 20 plants in cultivation, and with the efforts of Mike and Maggie, we have expanded the partners in developing this partnerships, bringing in more partners into helping us trying to restore Kapalupalo. I think in order for us to outplant it, we need to have at least 100 plants in cultivation before we can start outplanting. The majority of the plants are at the Olinda plant facility on Maui, and some plants will be going to Maui Nui Botanical Garden, And at our next meeting in August, we're looking at other partners that will be, on the list to start helping us to propagate, expand the Kanaloa population. Maggie, you have anything to add on that, Maggie?
Nope, that's good.
Can I ask a question? Just, Paul, just going back to your biochar, are you saying that you can't tell yet because there hasn't been enough rain to?
Well, that's what we think. And, it's been a very, very dry period on Kaho'olawe. There's some significant increase in the nutrients in the soil with the biochar, but not a significant amount. I don't have those numbers right now, Commissioner Case.
So you just don't know yet whether biochar doesn't really help, or whether it's not working yet because it hasn't been able to be sort of watered in.
I can add more detail to that too, Commissioner Case. I've worked with Jamie on the project. The issue is our application, we modified it a little bit from what they normally do with biochar application due to the nature of our accesses and our experiment and what we were trying to compare. So we just need to modify our implementation in this next round to see if we do it the way we're technically they are supposed to do it all the time, by working it into the soil areas if it has the intended effect that we're looking at.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, right now we're just kind of laying it on our original plan was to use biochar in the surface cleared areas only. So as a surface amendment, and that will eventually percolate into the ground of the plant, of the things that we plant on the surface. So, I mean, we're going to try to till it in our next go around in the areas that we can dig.
Yeah.
But originally, the idea of the biochar was, hey, we can lay it on the surface, let it percolate into the surface, and then we plant on the surface with the wind-collected dirt, and then the roots penetrate, and it has something for them, something that's in there, so when the roots go down, they have some nutrients availability.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be obviously nice to have a less labor-intensive application method, but anyway, good.
Not enough water for that one, so it didn't work.
And I think for the biochar, we're hoping for great results. If it could help us reduce bringing compost and soil amendments to the island, to help us out logistically, too, would be a great reduction in logistical support from the boat crew. You next.
Okay, now we're moving to ocean programs. Marine science education and training for the Hawaii perspective on Kaho'olawe. NOAA Pyro grant.
Yeah, so commissioners, an update on this grant. It's actually, we've completed the grant. We finished it. The reason we continue to report is because we did not receive full reimbursement yet. But just yesterday, working with Matt, we were able to put in that request for reimbursement through ASAP, a federal drawdown program or conduit, and we should be getting that payment shortly now. But it was a good learning experience nonetheless on the drawdown practice through ASAP. Just a real quick background of what was that?
No, I just want to say, I found in our box this morning the ASAP request sheet. So it's coming back to Maui with the staff.
That's good. Okay. So just a quick brief rundown on what the grant was. It was over a 1-year period. We worked with various marine science high school students at 3 different schools on Maui. And we took the students and teachers, marine science teachers and students, to Kaho'olawe and implemented what they had learned in the classroom. And what they had learned in the classroom was KIRC staff also went into the classrooms providing lectures, and we did some hands-on training, surveys, fish identification, cultural awareness, etc. And then got to utilize that on Kaho'olawe in the field. But that being said, real quickly, if you guys don't mind, Maggie and I just received an email from one of the students who participated in this grant yesterday. And she just wrote, and I'd like to read just an excerpt for it, if you don't mind, just reinforcing what impact I think this grant had on some of the students at least. So this is from Grace Archer, and she writes, she had done her senior project in correlation with coming to Kaho'olawe through this grant. She also did her senior project about Kaho'olawe. And she has said she graduated and she actually won an award for writing for her senior project through this. So she says that, but an excerpt from this is, the knowledge you and your staff of the history and ecology of the island revealed so much to me, and that I never knew about before. But I think what aided me the most was the sense of responsibility that awakened inside. I wanted to speak about the island because I had discovered Kuleana. I was able to go to Kaho'olawe and learn what I could because it had been granted to me through this access. I didn't feel trapped while staying there. I was uplifted instead. I thank everyone on the KIRC staff for the life-changing experience I have had. I wish you happiness and everything else moving forward. A tangent upon this was this student had a little bit of anxiety issues, and she had shared that while on Kaho'olawe, she felt a lot, in her words, not trapped. So receiving this yesterday, sharing it with Maggie was definitely a highlight. But again, just to recapture, the grant has ended, and we are in the process of the final drawdown of the $15,000 of the grant. So that's it for the Pyro mini grant, educational grant. If there are any questions, again, I'd be glad to answer any.
Okay, you want to start the next one?
Yep. Going on to the next and final one for us right now. Currently, the Ocean Program is working on a marine debris removal grant. Again, this grant is funded through NIFWIF. It's a grant life of January 2020 to December 2022. That is inclusive of a 1-year extension we got because of COVID. The total grant amount is $76,000, and we have conducted one cleanup in Kanapo already. We'll be going back in a couple months in September, and then the final access and fly out access is in October. We'll be removing the debris that we've aggregated in the first 2 accesses to both off island, off Kaho'olawe, for recycling purposes and being shipped to Oahu for power use. And also then some being flown up Mauka and working with collaboration with Paul and his gang in utilizing that debris for sedimentation reduction. So I think what makes this project very unique into all the other marine debris cleanups we've done in the past is not just taking the debris off the island, but and it usually goes to the landfill. Now it's being shipped to Oahu and being utilized for energy use. Also, another interesting aspect, I think, is that we always talk about a Mauka-Makai relationship. That is very evident on Kaho'olawe. But being able to return some of this debris from the Makai to Mauka, I think completes that cycle. So it's not just always Mauka-Makai, Mauka-Makai. We have a cycle of Makai going back to Mauka, helping some of our sediment reduction on island, which obviously I'm sure you all know is a major problem. Yeah, thus far we've spent $5,100 as far as this reporting period. We have not billed during this reporting period. Nothing was billed, but I believe this is the last week. Maggie worked very hard in beginning the billing process for this. So not captured in this reporting period, but billing has definitely begun for this grant. And that's in a nutshell. Again, if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer. If not, thank you guys for your time.
Who has NACWA? Huh? Restoration, huh? Okay, back to Paul then.
This is the coastal and upland wetland restoration through NACA, U.S. small grants. The purpose of this project is to enhance the temporary wetland areas at Keanakeki and Kaho'olawe. This will be completed through volunteer labor, and some of the deliverables are removing alien plant species in the area. The main ones that we're looking at are Kiawe, Xanthium or Cockleburr, and Kaho'olawe in the wetland areas and surrounding areas. And we're monitoring this through photo points. The award project, the award amount is $100,000, and it's through the American Wetland Conservation Act, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. We've taken some baseline photos in this 20-acre area up in Kaho'olawe. And so far, we've had 2 volunteer groups work in the area, again, removing Kiawe, Kaho'olawe, and Cockleburr or Xanthium in the area. total grant is about $100,000. I have not, we've only spent $580. We'll be putting in 13,000 plants in both of the areas. 5,000 plants in Keanakeki and 8,000 plants in the Kaho'olawe area. We hope to start the planting in the Keanakeki and Kaho'olawe in January of 2023. That's it.
Okay, thanks a lot, Paul.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Last one, we're gonna go back to a grant status update. It's found under in the ED report section. It's a kind of a update of what we have funded, what is applications outstanding, and what are we gonna be targeting for our next grant applications. And Maggie will present that one. But you can find the handout. It's in the ED section, and it kind of looks like.
A pretty PDF right at the end.
Oh, okay. Newsletter type.
So I'll start with the in progress. So they basically went through all of the ones that you're seeing. Our updates take you through the first, or all of them except the last one at the bottom. The last one is our new one. We just were awarded in May, early June, and we'll be kicking off one, and that's the one Mike spoke of about our IMLS 5, going mobile and upgrading our technological infrastructure in the office, which will allow us actually to work more synchronously in the field as well, because all of our stations will be able to come with us to Kaho'olawe and then be plugged back in at our base stations in our office. I'm also currently working on, and at the time of this, constructing this update, we only had 2 in process, but I got a call on Monday from my contact at the joint venture for the Pacific region that we are actually being encouraged to submit a NACA standard grant this year. There are no other priority projects being submitted for the North American Wetland Conservation U.S. standard cycle, which is coming up on July 8th. So he said if there was any year to do it, this was the one. So we'll be dropping in a proposal that is actually, the grant is actually going to be a partnership with the Ohana, the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana, doing a lot of the work in Hakeo'awa for the Ho'olaina committee, their Re-Veg committee, and looking to submit, it's roughly between going to be $300,000 and $400,000. Their ceiling is $1 million. And so Dave suggested that going off the same template we did for the coastal wetland, we should ask for around that amount, because again, it's a really significant space, and sometimes they like to just kind of plug in that last little bit of dollars they have for projects like ours. So I will be working really hard through the week to get that proposal up and ready to go for next week, Monday, on the 8th. And then you can see here, we're also working with Island Conservation to prepare a proposal for the America the Beautiful Challenge, roughly around $4 million to focus on cat eradication on the island, and that'd be island-wide cat eradication. And finally, looking at another public outreach project, Lopaka White and I are kind of playing around with the idea of coming up with a Kaho'olawe podcast to start sharing stories and experiences and oral histories related to Kanaloa with the general public. And the National Endowment for Humanities has an RFP open for upwards of $700,000 to be able to do that. And our hope would be to capture conversations on island so we could use some of that money to offset operating costs as well. With that, there's also a ton others coming down the pipe. So at the next meeting, I'm sure the blue box will be much, much bigger. So thanks.
Okay. I think that's all we have for this meeting.
Next up, are there any announcements?
I do. A couple weeks ago, another nonprofit I'm with, Kala Farms, we're hosting some students out in Waianae, and they wanted to have a panel to talk about Makua Valley and sort of learning from Kaho'olawe how Makua Valley might get returned to the community and what they can look forward to using Kaho'olawe as an example. So I called Mike. We had Davey on Zoom. Davey talked about the history of Kaho'olawe. Mike talked about from the Navy time up to present time with the commission. We had Sparky Rodriguez and Vince Dodge talking about Makua Valley, and I helped moderate. And we had about 40 students from Waianae and about 5 teachers as well attended. I think they learned a lot. So I just want to thank Mike for coming out and doing that and spreading the word about what the commission is doing and managing the resources of Kaho'olawe, because I think it's a good example of what might be done for other lands that might get returned to the Native Hawaiian community.
Yeah, the biggest thing I think, I talked to the Makua Valley guys, there was,
Land
be
use
ready,
Yeah.
because there's something in legislation right now, I think I saw, and, when it passes, it could be very fast. The period is very fast to get ahead of the game and take a lead in it, or you're gonna be left behind.
Right.
Yeah. There's one other announcement, I'd just like to make, just a couple past commissioners, we had, Uncle Bobby Luwai's, services were held, towards the end of May, in McKenna area. Uncle Bobby was a commissioner with, KIRC, back when I first started. And then also, we just had the services a couple weeks ago for, Dr. Chuck Burrows, who was another commissioner. He represented, Native Hawaiian organizations. Benton and I attended. He was our mentor, for me through high school, and Benton, as a relative, he led a lot of the commissioners that we had before were students of Doc Burrows, including Namaka Whitehead was one of the students in the Kamehameha School's Hui Lama program, and a lot of Native Hawaiians that are involved in the conservation world today were students of Doc, or were trained under Doc, or participated in the multiple programs that Doc Burrows held at Kailua, Kauai Marsh initiatives, Civic Club, environmental science, and place-based education programs with PATH and everything. So just to acknowledge Doc. Doc has been a big part of my life for a long time.
Yeah, you were first on Kaho'olawe in '81 with them, and you haven't left since.
Yeah, Doc's the one that brought me to Kaho'olawe, so he got me involved in Kaho'olawe, and he was also on my hiring panel when he hired me, so to the KIRC.
We also want to give tribute to, Colette Machado.
Oh, yes.
Right, former chair, vice chair,
Yep.
champion, for Maui Nui, Molokai, Lanai, and definitely Kaho'olawe.
Yep.
And for the Ohana, she's, really a guide, for us to, be steadfast, to speak up. And I actually think, like, for this meeting, we're kind of hitting our stride. I like that it's kind of drama-free, and we're just kind of getting,
I like that too.
So, I know she wasn't afraid of getting in there and doing the hard work, and that really set us up for, our community and our island has really benefited.
I think one of the comments we had when we were talking about our time with Colette was that, you're a Ohana member when she beat you up. If you got beat up by Colette, you were accepted.
You were.
And I just want to, just one last time, Keone Fairbanks is in the room for those who aren't here, and I just want to recognize him as, the first executive director for the Kaho'olawe Island Reserve Commission. So thanks for coming, Keone. Good to see you.
Thanks, Yadi.
If
Chair,
no other,
Chair, this is Samuel. I have one more thing I just wanted to add. I just wanted to say thank you again to all the staff for your hard work, and I think maybe a good exercise for the commission in the next couple meetings maybe is to, because we are 4 years away from the 2026 strategic plan, is to maybe take a relook, a more holistic look at where we are, and just kind of go through it as a commission. And I don't want it to be too overwhelming where we try to push everything into one meeting, but maybe over the next couple of meetings we take a look at the plan again and see where we're at and where we need to go, because I do think we're making really good progress from all the work we've seen, and I really appreciate all the project status updates. And I just think for the commission's sake, and it would be a good thing to kind of reopen that and start looking maybe in quadrants at different programs, goals, and projects, and see where we're at now and how far we have to go to meet our goals. Maybe for the next couple of meetings we can start to open that up. A suggestion.
love that.
Good idea.
Sounds good, yeah.
Love
Good
that.
idea. Other, comments, announcements? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Uncle Keone.
Yeah, let me turn it around so you can see him.
No, he's in my thing. He's in my
Oh, you can see him in your screen, yeah.
Ahui ho.
Yeah. Dean asked if they could, take a picture
Too late.
of the boat.
Oh,
of
Yeah.
the vote.
I sent you the photo that he sent me,
Okay, thanks.
and I also sent it to Lopaka. I know it's kind of a blurry one, but I think that's the best you could get.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Ahuho. Bye, Terry.